多謝各位同事，我哋。
Thank you, members. It is now time to start the meeting. We have also formed a quorum. First of all, let's confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 2nd of March 2015. Paper CB bracket 1786/14 to 15. We haven't received any proposed amendments. Can we confirm the minutes? All right, thank you. Next, information papers issued since the last meeting. There are two of them. CB bracket 1750/14 to 15 bracket 01, as well as CB bracket 1775/14 to 15 bracket 01. And is from the concerned group of evicted PRH tenants. Without further ado, we can move on to items for discussion at the next meeting. Please take a look of the list of follow-up actions and list of outstanding items for discussion. They are in paper CP bracket 1787/14 to 15 bracket 01 and bracket 02. Our next meeting will be held on the 1st of June at 2:30 p.m. Two items are down for discussion. First of all, Head 711 project number B177TB, Xiaoming Road, Kwun Tong, the footbridge there, as well as another project under the same head, that's in relation to the public transport interchange in Pak Wan Street, Sam Shui Po. Do you agree? All right, thank you. I just want to say that for the subsidized housing committee of the Housing Authority, they are going to have a meeting on the 6th of May in relation to a pilot scheme concerning the green form applicants. The earliest will be able to get a briefing from the authority on the 1st of June. So we'll try our best to see if this can be included in our June meeting. All right, and that takes us to this fourth item on the agenda, the work of the Sales of First-Hand Residential Properties Authority. Two papers are relevant, CB bracket 1787/14 to 15 bracket 03 and bracket 04. Please invite the relevant speakers to join us.
好，唔該晒。咁我哋歡迎一手住宅物業銷售監管局嘅。
Thank you. I would like to welcome the representatives from the Sales of First-Hand Residential Properties Authority. Please walk us through the paper and then I'll open the floor to members. The ordinance has become effective for 2 years and so far the enforcement has been smooth. As far as the ordinance is concerned, in the past there were undesirable arrangements that have been denounced by the public. We want to improve upon the conditions and we want to change the culture. Our achievement has been significant. For the prospective purchasers, we want them to be able to get relevant information. And we want them to have market information. All in all, transparency has been enhanced. It is fairer, it is more orderly. For most of the vendors, they try their best to meet the requirements of the ordinance. When they are notified of possible breaches of the ordinance, they try to put in place remedial measures. For individual vendors, there were in the past some arrangements that had drawn the attention of the public, and our authority has reacted swiftly. First of all, immediate investigation. Secondly, we will try to work through the media to remind the prospective purchasers. As a result of our work, in most cases, the vendors have resorted to remedial measures, and as a result, the sales arrangements have been better and the purchasers have been more alert. Since the implementation of the ordinance, the supply of first-hand properties has been smooth. As of 31st of March 2015, the vendors have provided 27,000 first-hand properties in 160 residential development or phases. The ordinance has afforded flexibility as well as transparency and fairness in the sales, we're able to strike a balance. We have been dealing with the complaints, we've been dealing with public inquiries, we have conducted investigation into suspected breaches, and we have provided a website for the sale of first-hand properties. We have got 3 pillars. In fact, all the 3 pillars are interrelated. First of all, about the work of the authority, well, we've set out the details in the paper, and I'm not going to repeat the details. I just want to say that as far as public education is concerned, all along we have been emphasizing the need to make sure that the sales conditions are transparent, and then for possible consequences on the order of the sales or matters that might jeopardize the interests of the purchasers, though they are not in breach of the law, we have been trying to draw the attention of all relevant parties to them. In most cases, they have accepted our views and they have made improvements. Say recently, for the vendors, we have made certain suggestions. Say, for example, when it comes to balloting and the selection of flats, it's best to have 2 separate days for such activities. In this way, when somebody is made aware of the ballot results, the registrants do not have to rush to the office of sales so as to select a site. At least they will have one evening to think clearly in relation to the priority of their ballot, and if they're not able to buy their intended flat, what sort of a sequence of other flats should be considered. In some cases, the registrants are being asked to attend in person to take part in the balloting. Otherwise, it will be a matter of disqualification. We think that this is not necessary. We've already advised the vendors not to have such unreasonable practices. At the end of the 2-year period, for first-come, first-served arrangements, this may easily give rise to controversies for those participants at the site. We have advised the vendors not to have such a practice. Sometimes members of the public may mix up our enforcement work and public education work. They may think that we would only resort to verbal warnings. I just want to emphasize that when we suspect that there are non-compliance cases, we won't, as a result of remedial measures of the vendors, exempt the vendors and think that they haven't breached the law. We do not allow this to happen. The authority will still look into the suspected non-compliance cases and take follow-up action. On the 29th of April this year, in fact, we have provided 2 other measures so as to enhance the transparency. First of all, we have got the purchase notes, so that since the from the 1st of April onwards, there should be a consumption list, so that we should be told about the flats available for sale on that particular day, and then they must also revise the consumption list in due course, so that prospective purchasers and estate agents know at any one time what other flats have already been taken up and what other flats are still available. On the other hand, we have also found that the public are also concerned about the registration of intention to buy as well as the submission of checks. We've been working together with the EAA. Once the EAA has put into practice that there is a need for the estate agents to make a declaration if they have submitted a check, then we will ask the EAA to have we will then make sure that there must be a declaration as to how many of the registrants are actually estate agents. For investigation into compliance or not, this is part of our work as to whether there is sufficient evidence to prove that the vendor or anybody is suspected to have breached the law and whether there should be prosecution, it is a matter of the prosecution unit of the DOJ. For suspected non-compliance cases, when completed in terms of investigation, will be forwarded to the DOJ for consideration of prosecution. Misleading information, false declaration, etc. Have been identified. Technical breaches have also been identified. The DOJ is still considering the cases, and once they have made a decision, our authority will be notified and advice will be given to us as to what should be done next. With more first-hand residential properties on sale, offered on sale, we believe that there will be more challenges. Now, we will step up our efforts to conduct compliance checks, inspections, handle complaints, carry out investigations, and educate the trade and the public. Thank you. Thank you. Next, I would like to open the floor to members for there are 5 of them, and 4 minutes each, covering question and answer. Dr. Lo Wai Kwok to be followed by Leung Chi Chang. Thank you, Madam Chair. The Residential Properties First-Hand Sales Ordinance has come into full implementation, and as a result, misleading information, misrepresentation, lack of clarity concerning the area for sale, all such practices have gone. Nowadays, we know for sure how big the flat is in terms of the saleable area. But then for the selling tactics of the vendors, I understand that there are still many problems. I understand that in the last century, in the early 80s or in the 80s, in the early 90s, in the past, we used to have a big office. We have got information posted on the walls, number of units offered for sale, orientation, etc. So the purchasers can choose a flat of their choice in accordance with their preferences and their affordability. Later on, as a result of the developments of the property market, things have taken a regressive trend of development. The paper has also referred to the problematic selling tactics. In the past, we used to have comprehensive information, and then the flats were offered for sale when they were completed. Nowadays, we have got agents selling their properties, and then they will create the impression that you must act quickly, otherwise the flats will be gone. Now, the paper has said that there's no way to control how many flats are actually offered for sale. In other words, the number of flats offered will be small, and then they will try to offer the flats on the basis of small batches, and then the estate agents will be trying to persuade the purchasers individually, and so you can see that the profits are huge. I just wonder if we can sort of try to address this problem, because it is unhealthy, and we look forward to some genuine improvement.
Thank you, Mr. Low, now for letting us know that you agreed that improvements have been made. Now, the intention of the ordinance is to increase transparency. The vendors, at least 7 days before sale, would have to provide information, and then 3 days before issue the price list, and then other documents in hard copy form, together with a stipulated website. and some will also appear in our website. Now, in other words, the purchasers have at least 3 days to know about the various prices, and so the prospective purchasers have more time, slightly more time, to think about their purchase. Now, from June 1, we are going to ask the vendors to put up the sales chart so the purchasers would know what flats are remaining for sale. Now, I am a bit disappointed, Chair, that this is not the focus of the issue. It's really the modus operandus of the sale, creating a pressure on the part of the purchasers. So the question is not answered. So we'll move on to Mr. Leung Chi Cheung first of all. Now, on the new flats, they're very much in demand, and they usually sell very fast. Now, but this is not directly related to the work of the authority. Now, in fact, the new units will be sold whether you tell the truth or not, except that if you don't tell the truth regarding property details, you'll be running foul of the law. But as just said in the paper, if you provide false or misleading information and how the complaints are to be handled, now, how many such cases are suspected violations after your investigation? And what is the progress of all these cases of violations? And has the DOJ handled any of such cases of suspected violations? Now, thank you, Chair. Now, all these transaction information will appear in our chart. For example, those that have signed the PASP or the ASP, they have to be announced. Now, any misleading information, they are serious violations. And in the complaints that we receive or those sent to us by the media, now if we suspect anything, we will open files for these cases and pass them on to the DOJ, including those that are providing wrong information or suspected of misrepresentation. And if there is any ruling, we will be told of the results, and they will tell us what to do next. Now, Chair, now last year, certain property sites, as well as this is happening this year as well. Now, when the properties are for sale, then suddenly you have thousands of people trying to make the purchase. And I don't think the present law can handle this. Now, you know that you only have a very slim chance of getting the property because you have to go through balloting. Now, is there anything in the legislation that will allow us to tackle this kind of situation? Yes, we are very much concerned about this. Now, you may have a lot of declarations of interest by the checks submitted, but then if you look at the actual transactions, now we are working with the reader and or the EAA, and we are telling them that they cannot make loans to the prospective purchasers. So if you submit more than one check, that's because they do have the funds to do so, and they want to increase their chance of buying the flat. Now we are again going to work with the EAA and those involving in this kind of work. If they submit their checks in their own name, they have to make declarations. And we are going to issue guidelines to the purchasers. Now, you have to release information regarding the origin of those checks. And the purchasers will know that for a certain site, many of the estate agents are actually submitting the checks. Okay, I'm So Wong Kok Hing. I have two questions. First of all, a follow-up question from Mr. Leung's question earlier. Now, if we only persuade them rather than requiring them by law, then what is the use of that? Because the estate agents, okay, you persuade them not to put in a check. Now, that may not be useful. It's not sufficiently deterrent. This is my first question. Now, second, now these new flats, now they are launched into the market in phases, and then prices will go up. And every time they launch newer units, prices will go up. Now, this is not good for consumers who are end users. It is unfair. Now, you should be able to require them to launch the whole lot with all the prices indicated, so that the consumers can choose better. And this way, you will also get rid of the illegal activities boosting the house prices and ultimately, hurting the consumers. Thank you, Chair. Now, the MO of the developers changes, and we are also responding to this. We have to follow the trend and look at the expectation of the purchasers and to make speedy responses, especially when the MO is not particularly satisfactory. Now, in the last 2 years, we issue guidelines, we issue practice circulars. And in this way, we respond to the situation very quickly. Now, in experience in the last 2 years, now all the practice circulars that we issued, they are adhered to. And if they fail to do so, or if they violate, now we will actually know of those situations. Now, but what about those keep on increasing prices and launching those units in phases? Now, in Hong Kong, now, people have the right to do things according to law, whether to sell or not to sell. As far as legislating goes, we cannot bind the vendor to sell all their products by a certain date. Now, the price should include a minimum number of units. And if they were to make changes, they have to cross out the old price and then to write the new price, whether it is falling price or increasing. So this way, the purchasers would know whether the units are increasing in price or not. Now, if we force them to push the whole lot out at the same time, then we're going to go back to the old way, and there would be only one price list for all the units. And the purchasers, do they really want to go back to this mode of selling? Well, we're not too sure. Now, on the sale of these first-hand properties, now the legislation has come into effect for 2 years, and I believe that the transparency and the overall arrangement and impact on consumers, well, the effect has already been seen. Now, the authority has done quite a bit of work, and my first question is, now the figures in the paper, are they figures from the last 2 years? Secondly, on investigation and prosecution, now on the whole, now the cases that you have investigated, what is the percentage? And how many has been submitted to the DOJ? Now, we want to protect the consumers. Now, that is important. Now, and in the last 2 years, we need to make sure that those in the trade, including the estate agents, the professionals, the architects, or the surveyors, or even the developers themselves, now, are they being monitored by the authority? Now, of course, if they take the initiative to make improvements, that would be good and would save you a lot of trouble. And certainly there's no need for prosecution. Now, have you had dialogues with these stakeholders? Now, I think we should look at the whole trade, all the participants. Now, there are certain requests which may not be very desirable, and those plans will need to be fine-tuned. So these are some of the questions that I have. Now, the figures are all from the 29th of April 2013 up till the 31st of March this year. Now, for investigation and prosecution, this is something we do on a daily basis, and we look at all the sales documents, and we check and vet them, and we check all those sales offices as well as the demonstration units. If we suspect anything, or if we receive complaints, or inquiries from the media, now any of these 3 sources will come under our umbrella. And there are many cases have been passed to the DOJ, and they are in the process of following this up. I'd just like to know the percentage. Yes, can you please be specific? I don't have the figures. Can you let us have them afterwards? The percentage you refer to is, okay, you have X number of complaints. How many have been investigated? How many have been passed to the DOJ? And you can also answer the second question about the dialogue between the representatives as well as the professionals. Now, on discussing with the trade, this is very important public education. We meet them regularly. For example, the reader or the EAA. Yes, we give them practice circulars and then other Q&As. So this is just to facilitate a smooth communication. Okay.
Next, Dr. Fernando Jiang. Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, for the residential properties first-hand sales ordinance, it has come into full implementation for 2 years. I believe that we have seen improvements. Towards the end of last year, the Consumer Council issued a report. The Consumer Council carried out a survey, and it was found that for the sales arrangements to offer the flats bit by bit, and also the environment. As a result, many consumers found it difficult. Say, for example, if I may try to read out from the report, it is said that the selection process from the time of knowing which flats are available to the moment to make a decision, usually only a few minutes available, and after balloting, you have only 3 minutes. Otherwise, you'll be subject to a lot of inferences. For the price list, it has been found that on average, every 1.6 days, there will be revisions to the price list. In other words, the prices fluctuate all the time. As to the total number of flats available for sale, well, in the price list, it was found that not all the flats were actually offered for sale. Many flats have had their prices listed, but then they were not for sale. It's for the purpose of misleading, confusing the prospective purchasers. A lot of informal sales documents have been issued, other than the sales brochures, the price list, as well as the transaction register of transactions. So at the site, a lot of information has been sent out under the disguise that the purpose is to simplify the information to facilitate understanding. Well, they have carried out undercover operations. A lot of problems have been identified, and they've come up with a lot of recommendations. Flats for which prices have been issued should all be offered for sale, cooling period, deposits, and also there should be more mysterious shoppers, etc. So 5 recommendations have been made by the CC, and I want to know if you would follow up on any of them. Well, in November last year, the CC came up with a report. We have considered the recommendations therein. As to the issue of offering the flats in small number, I think everybody has got the legal right to offer any number of flats. Don't dwell on that. Please be more specific about the 5 points made by the CC. Well, the Consumer Council, well, in fact, there was a steering committee, and there was a public consultation, and then the LegCo had a discussion for the issues identified by the Consumer Council. I don't think they are new to us. We try to seek common ground. We need to strike a balance. On the one hand, transparency and fairness in terms of the information. On the other hand, we need to give room to the vendors to make commercial decisions. I think we have achieved quite a good balance. No, it's not a matter of seeking common ground with the vendors. They are at an advantage. They can control all the prices. For the 5 recommendations of the CC, I think they are very specific, but I haven't heard anything positive from you. I'm really disappointed. Please consider this matter. Please try to implement the 5 recommendations from the Consumer Council. The ordinance has only become effective for 2 years. It is in a long period of time. Currently, as to whether we need to revise the ordinance, I think we are still at a very early stage. We'll continue to monitor the effectiveness of the law, and if necessary, we'll try to see what time will be the right time to review the ordinance. Currently, when we identify anything unsatisfactory, we'll be working through our practice notes, our guidelines, as well as the FAQs, so as to rectify the situation. And we take the first opportunity to alert the prospective purchasers. Last year, we issued an API to advise the prospective purchasers to be exceptionally careful when they sign the PASP, because if they don't sign the ASP in due course, their deposits will be forfeited. It seems that Mr. Fong was saying that once the ordinance has been introduced, that's the end of the matter, and they have been accountable and responsible. And now they're asking for time for everybody to get used to it. I think this is most irresponsible. I think on the first day that a piece of legislation comes into effect, the government is duty bound to make sure that the ordinance will be enforced effectively. When we identify any problems, we have to review the ordinance ASAP. I can't agree with you that you need to give it something like a probationary period or grace period. So please tell us when you're going to carry out a review. And then Dr. Fernando Zhang referred to the 5 recommendations from the Consumer Council. Now, Mr. Fong, you're saying that you want to seek common ground. So are you ignoring the recommendations of the Consumer Council? It is most irresponsible. For the recommendations of the CC, they arose from problems identified in the real life. So are you saying that it is superfluous for the CC to make recommendations, or are you dismissing them as being irrelevant or inappropriate? Otherwise, if you think that the CC's recommendations are in the right direction, why would you emphasize seeking common ground? Why won't you take action to prevent what they have identified as unsatisfactory from continuing? So are you still trying to adopt the mentality of seeking common ground when it comes to the CC's recommendations? What is being done by you to make sure that the ordinance is being implemented effectively? Mr. Fung, since the establishment of the SRPA and since the implementation of the ordinance, we've been taking the matter seriously. Whenever we identify non-compliance, we will start a case and we will carry out investigation. And the case has been referred to the DOJ. There are 120 offences in the ordinance. We haven't yet reached the stage of prosecution. Once we are at that stage, then you will know about the cases involved. For the Consumer Council's study, mention has been made about the need for a cooling off period. Now, if the ASP is not signed after the preliminary one has been signed, as to the forfeiture amount, what is the right amount, and also the need to offer all the flats for sale, that is flats in the price list, well, all such arrangements have been decided after careful consideration and have the approval of the LegCo. We know that we should enhance the protection for home buyers, and therefore when we drafted the bill, we tried as much as possible to include things that could be done, and we've been enforcing the law vigorously. Of course, the vendors will be having new practices day by day, and we have practice notes with guidelines, with FAQs, so as to make sure that vendors will be asked to rectify those unsatisfactory practices. We believe that it has worked for the past year or two. In this way, we're able to stop undesirable practices, and also the prospective purchases have been put on the alert. Next, Mr. Albert Chan. I'm interested in the investigation and prosecution, Madam Chair, because in the past year or two, for those who oppose the government, prosecution is swift, even in the absence of evidence. But then for the powerful and the privileged, especially those who have a close tie with the government, despite strong evidence, like the 7 police officers beating up a protester in a dark corner, there hasn't been any prosecution, and they've been allowed to cover up their face with a facial mask. So the powerful, the privileged can do whatever they like without any fear. Now, it is said that you're still following up on the various cases. It is not right for you to divulge the information. It is difficult for you to convince us that you are being fair and unbiased. I don't doubt your attitude and your work ethics, but then when a case refers to the DOJ, when a large conglomerate is involved, and if we're talking about supporters of CY Leung, then they will not be touched. So you have said that there are 119 complaint cases. I want to know how many are related to individual property developers. Name them. Now for the Consumer Council, they have the name and shame tactic for those who, like the shops selling pharmaceutical products, etc. So are you going to name the conglomerates which are involved in the complaint cases? Mr. Fung, as I have said, the SRPA is responsible for investigation, but then as to the prosecution and whether there is adequate evidence to prosecute is a matter for the prosecution's division of the DOJ. I don't think I can say anything on their behalf. Even the subject companies of the complaint cases, I think you can disclose that information. For a period of time, the Consumer Council has also named and shamed the law-breaking or shops or those engaged in bad practices. Madam Chair, it is only a matter of suspicion of contraventions. We haven't completed the prosecution, but certain acts are problematic and you can advise against them, then I think you can disclose the information, like what the Consumer Council has done. The Consumer Council did not have to prosecute any shop before the name of the shop was disclosed. There were 13 verbal warnings in which we suspected non-compliance. Why don't you name the companies? Well, for the sales arrangements, don't dodge the issue. I ask very specific question. I'm trying to ask the question on your behalf, Albert Chen. I'm not talking about the act. Albert, I'm trying to ask the question on your behalf. Mr. Fung, in fact, other than Albert Chen, Mr. Tony Chair also asked this question concerning the investigation and prosecution. Otherwise, we get the impression that you're a toothless tiger, and also you're trying to protect the privilege and the CY Leung supporters. It's my time slot, Madam Chair. Why don't you disclose the information? Madam Chair, we have alerted the prospective purchasers. The information has been uploaded onto our website, and the names have been published, so they know which companies are involved. Have you told us as to which company has got the highest number of complaints? Because I haven't read each and every document on your website. Do you have the information now? You have said that you have published the information. You don't have it now? 13 projects or 13 items. Among them, 3 of them, well, there was one in which we suspect that the vendor should have been selling the first-hand properties in accordance with our ordinance, but they haven't submitted any sales documents in accordance with the law. Which company? Which company? Please tell us. I haven't got a computer with me.
就係點解你唔講得個名？
Well, why not tell us the name? I don't understand. Can you afterwards, Mr. Fong, pass the information to Mr. Ip, to Mr. Albert Chan? Yes, since you have published those information on the web, but what you said that there are 13 cases on the web. Why are you worried about mentioning the name? Now afterwards I can give you the 13 verbal well to us. Well, I'm just asking for the name, but what is the fear? Now Mr. Albert Chan, you can queue again. We have first of all, Mr. Chair, 3 minutes. Yes, I just like to follow up my first round question, and I just want to know a percentage. Now the figure is really very simple. Now it mentions the complaints figure, 86 cases relating to the ordinance. Now, but after investigation, what percentage are being followed up? For example, submitted to the DOJ. I know you have done a lot of work. I just like to have some figures, so people will know that there is follow-up. Secondly, now many colleagues are concerned about consumers having to buy properties. Now 2 years have elapsed. Now the transactions involve a lot of stakeholders, and Mr. Fong, you've mentioned about meetings with the reader. Now, can you tell us the concrete information? Now, I appreciate your work in explaining the situation to the trade. Now, sometimes problems are generated as a result of a lack of communication, and I would like to see, now, apart from the regular dialogues with reader, you should also look at some professional bodies. For example, the architects, they have to submit plans every now and then. Now, it may not be very helpful to the purchasers, but in your adjustment, the consumers will actually get more information, and this way the law can become more meaningful. Now, so this is a view that I would like to submit for Mr. Fong to think about. You can liaise with the architects or the surveyors or the other developers' representatives. And this way, if they exercise more self-discipline, it's better than you monitoring them. So, Chair, I'm only providing these suggestions for Mr. Fong. Yes, in fact, we have liaised with all these stakeholders and professional bodies that has been mentioned, and especially in the early phases after the law has come into effect. Yes, we have prepared some FAQs for the trade. Now, your question about the complaints, and up till the 31st of March, we have received 119 from the public. 80 plus are related to the ordinance, and 30 plus are not related. And we have basically finished all the investigation, and 73 cases are not substantiated, and then the remaining have been submitted to the DOJ, and some are being followed up. Now, as to why those cases are not substantiated, that's because the complainant withdraw the complaint, or they are not willing to provide anything in writing, and so we cannot collect evidence. And some involve discussion with DOJ, and the DOJ says that there is no prima facie evidence to arouse any suspicion. Mr. Ferdinand Zhang. Now, this is a single biggest investment, buying a property. Now, the consumers have to have a lot of things to consider. Now, they do not have the time and energy to make any complaints. Now, if they do not buy, they do not lose anything, then they won't complain. And if they have bought it, and if they complain, it may not actually help. So I'm asking the authority whether you will imitate the work of the Consumers Council to go undercover, rather than, going there in high profile, and people will just produce a show for you. Now, can you send your staff undercover and pretend to be purchasers? Now, the consumers have actually done that for 17 sales plot. And if you look at their report, there are problems all along the chain. Now, why don't you do something similar? Mr. Fong. Now, apart from checking the documents, now every time when there are units for sale, we send people there to look at their demonstration units, the sales office, and we also look at the EAA. And most of the time, we do not reveal our identity. We are like ordinary purchasers. So we have done what you have described, and we do not do it selectively. We do this for all the sales. Now, so have you gone through the balloting stage, submitting bank drafts, and have you done all these? Now, the Consumer Council's MO, I'm not really sure. Now, but in our case, now, if we have to register and submit a bank draft, we cannot do that. Now, if you have done this, then you will not be answering this way. But then the Consumer Council has actually done that. They have prepared such bank drafts. Now, the EAA, providing funds to the prospective buyers, they are not legal. But then their report has found out these exactly. Now, we have two other colleagues wanting to ask, Mr. Ip Kwok Him and then Alan Leung, and then Albert Chan. First of all, Mr. Ip. Now, I have just heard from Mr. Fong regarding the 33 cases in paragraph 17. They are others, not relating to the actual sale. Now, can you tell us what are these 33 other cases? Paragraph 17. Why do you say others there? This is my first question. Is it because the law is not stated clearly? Now, in paragraph 20, involving estate agents. Now, is it just a one-way relationship, or is it a two-way one? Now, if EAA finds out problems, or if you, SRPA, find out something, will you inform one another? And then if there are more than 30 units but under 100, now, and the price list to be submitted 3 days beforehand. Now, the price list will you also show the price for units not for sale? So 3 questions. 33 other cases. First of all, some are transactions before the 29th of April 2013, and some are not related to first-hand properties. Maybe they are second-hand properties. And some are relating to the MO of estate agents, but not involving misrepresentation or misleading information. So it doesn't come under this ambit. Now, our relationship with the EAA, now they look at the behavior of the estate agents, but we basically look at the developers. But when it comes to misrepresentation or misleading information, then this covers all the stakeholders. If one EA is guilty of misrepresentation, then apart from the EAA exercising their tools, we can also do so to investigate and to impose penalties. Now, whenever it involves EA or complaints against the EA, both parties will have a dialogue, so we will be able to tackle the situation together. Now, on price lists, now the law says that you have to provide at least X number of units prices. But once the list is issued, the seller can decide when to sell what units. And in the sales brochure, a number of days beforehand, now in the past they can actually sell by different lots or phases. But recently they can also launch all the units together. Some, for example, involving 200 up to 300 units, they are all launched for sale. So we are looking at this situation. Mr. Alan Leung. Now this SRPA, starting its work on the 29th of April 2013, so it is now more than 2 years. Now, listening to Mr. Fung, we do not have a single successful prosecution. Now, they have issued 13 reminders, but all given to the public. But against the developers, it seems that there is none since the law came into effect 2 years ago. Now, my understanding of the law is that, or the understanding of the work of the SRPA, you pass the cases to the DOJ, you also give guidelines to the stakeholders. And stakeholders involve the purchasers, of course, but also the developers, who are the vendors. So 2 years have elapsed.
And according to paragraph 17, there were at least 86 complaint cases that were related to the ordinance. Of course, I'm concerned that 17 were related to sales brochure, 25 sales arrangements, and then misrepresentation and or dissemination of false misleading information, 23 of them. But you are not able to tell us and there were 10 for advertisements, you're not able to tell us whether we are talking about the same property developer contravening the law all the time, or when you have got the first case, then you have issued guidelines to warn the others to initiate criminal investigation. You need to have strong evidence. Even if the DOJ doesn't prosecute, it doesn't mean that there hasn't been any non-compliance. For the stakeholders, in particular, the property developers, you have to make sure that they're up to certain professional standards. I hope the director can understand that whether you are successful in bringing about criminal prosecution and whether you have been effective in implementing the ordinance, issuing the guidelines, etc., they are two separate issues. So, Madam Chair, I want to hear from Mr. Fung, that is how he is balancing the two. It appears to me that the guidelines are not directed at the developers. Is that really the case? Mr. Fung, now, 13 reminders. Yes, for the prospective purchases. At the same time, we have also issued a lot of guidelines, purchase notes, and also 120 FAQs. So all of them have been prepared by the SRPA in the light of lack of understanding of certain provisions or dubious circumstances. Like on the 29th of April, we introduced a new practice, and recently we've also come up with 3 new suggestions. So far, the Prosecutions Division of the DOJ has only said that there hasn't been strong evidence in a small number of cases. The rest are still being considered, and once they've made up their mind, they will tell us about the next step forward. Edward Chen, I tried to visit the website quickly and try to take a look of the website of the SPRA. Mr. Fung talked about having the information, but then there's under press release. We haven't got the names of the property developers. You can only take a look of the press releases, but then the press releases are mildly worded. Please be brave. I think you need to do what you should do. Let me read out from your websites. Even the female would not be a weaker proportion, like in the case of Quilliam Street, and you also talk about the Homerton Hillside. But what about the name of the developer? Are you really worried? Do you have phobia about the developers? Are you worried that by naming the developers will be affected? I think in such cases, developers will care most for their reputation. If you dare not name them, then what sort of regulatory work are you carrying out? And then for the mortgage for first-hand residential properties, it is an open secret. As a result of the many regulatory requirements over first-hand residential properties, I know that developers are trying to provide second mortgage or third mortgage so as to bypass the 60% maximum mortgage level. So do you think that this is against the law, or is it sort of going against the monetary authorities' requirements? Mr. Chen, are you referring to the Hong Kong MA's mortgage limit? Since it's been sort of set at 60%, many developers are providing their own mortgage. The purpose of the ordinance is to enhance transparency. So whatever concessionary measures are provided by the vendors to the purchasers, such must be clearly spelled out in the sales brochures. Say if mortgage loans are provided, you have to set out clearly the maximum amount to be provided, and the developers themselves must make sure that what they do, and also the finance companies involved, are in line with the requirements of the Hong Kong MA. What about naming the property developers? We have named the residential developments. What about the property developers behind the housing projects? Usually we name the projects because naming the projects will mean that prospective purchasers are aware of the specific project involved. There is also a technical difficulty here. I'm really ignorant. What are you afraid of? What is your fear? Mr. Fong, I think all members would like to make you understand that citizens spend huge sums of money to buy a property. They would like to have their interests being protected. You said that you have exerted a lot of efforts to carry out investigation. Why can't you do more? Now, you have completed the investigation into a certain number of cases. Can you not name the project as well as the developer? Like the Consumer Council, if it is found that a camera shop or a shop selling dried seafood has been found to have cheated on the consumers many times, then the names can be disclosed. Well, there is a difficulty here. A property developer may not be selling a project in the name of the parent company. Usually it's a subsidiary. Even if we are to name the company, it will be a company unknown. But in the sales brochures, you'll always get the name of the developer. Please go back to consider as to what can be done to address this problem. The purpose of the ordinance is to enhance transparency and to protect the consumers. So I understand what you are saying, but then after all, the company would be a subsidiary of a property developer. So in the sales brochure, no one will be interested in buying a particular flat if the parent property developer is not named. Well, after all, we would like to safeguard consumers' interests. Thank you for your suggestion. I think we need to get legal advice from the DFJ. What has got to do with the DFJ? You are independent. Please give us a written reply. Yes, Mr. Fong. Number of complaints, number of investigation, etc. Yes, we'll provide written answer to you. Why would you want to get legal advice from the DFJ? I can't understand. I understand. I'll explain the matter to you later on. We need to move on. I think we need to move on as everybody is waiting for the next item. Thank you. Next. The role and positioning of the Hong Kong Housing Society in the government's housing policy. 3 papers, 787/14-15, bracket 06, bracket 05, and bracket 07. Many members were keen to ask questions on the first discussion item, so I'll be quite strict about the time management. Thank you. We have Mr. Wong Kit Leung, Chief Executive Officer and Executive Director of the Hong Kong Housing Society, and Mr. Jackie Yip, Director of Housing Society, and Mrs. Vicky Kwok, PS Housing. Thank you for giving us the time. we were established under the Hong Kong Housing Society Incorporation Ordinance. We are independent and not for profit. We have always been observing the principle of prudent financing. For our oversight, there are two tiers. First of all, we have the supervisory board. The other is the executive committee. And we have got government representatives sitting on the board or the committee so as to enhance communication with us. For our business, since our establishment, there were 9 different housing schemes that have been implemented by us, like subsidized flats for lease or sale, as well as certain loan schemes. We do not have a large scale and we can be quite flexible. So from time to time we try to innovate so as to cater for the different housing needs. For example, we have the urban improvement scheme, we have the rural public housing and senior citizen residences scheme. They are quite new and no other government departments or other private organizations taking part in the schemes. Currently, we have got 20 rental estates housing a lot of people in 32,000 units. We have got Group A and Group B estates. For Group A, we have something similar to the waiting list for Hong Kong Housing Authority units. And then for Group A estates, the rental level is more or less the same as that for the Hong Kong Housing Authority. For Group B estates, they are for families of relatively high income, and so the rental is higher. In addition, we have got units for the elderly, and we provide the units to the elderly at concessionary rates. And maintenance and repair have cost us more and more money, and so we're incurring more expenditure. The largest challenge is that 8 housing estates have an age of over 40 and 4 estates over 50 years history. So we need to set aside sufficient money for the purpose of redevelopment of such housing estates. According to our current assets, if we are to redevelop such housing estates, we are only able to cope with 4 of them. So we need to exercise prudent financial management. For rent adjustment, we do it once every 2 years. When we adjust our rent, we try to consider a number of factors. Say, for example, the rental income must be sufficient to cover the recurrent management expenses, tenancy administration costs, rates, and government rents. And we need to consider having provision for major improvement works, repair, maintenance, and we need to have contribution to the development sinking fund to cater for future redevelopment. When we call meetings to consider the rents, we'll also look at the inflation rates, the salary index, and affordability of the tenants. For those tenants encountering financial difficulties, currently the government and other organizations do provide assistance. And we have got 6 social workers who are resident at the rental estates, and they will provide appropriate help in individual cases. That's all from me for the time being. I've just circulated 2 papers to you. One is from the concerned group of Kun Lung Lau residents or tenants concerning the rental. And then a member has to attend another meeting, or he has to chair another meeting, but he has given us his views concerning 3 points in relation to housing society. So Mr. Wong, please take note of that. 4 minutes each, Wong Kok Hing and then Christopher Chong. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, prior to today's meeting, the Kunlung House rental concern group has come here to petition us. I think we have all got a copy of their submission. They represent the tenants, and a lot of them are elderly people, and they live in the housing society estates. They've lived there for a long time. Many of them are very advanced in age, and probably they haven't got any regular income since they have already retired. So for the rent affordability, it has become a big problem for them. They're worried that the housing society would increase the rent drastically. Therefore, I've got two questions for the housing society.
One, the rent hike. Now, what is the basis for your calculation? Are you going to pass all the burden to the tenants, especially these elderly tenants we're talking about? Now, if you increase the rent drastically, they cannot afford it. So they are making a strong request that the rent hike cannot exceed inflation. Now, some are having financial difficulty, and I noticed from your speech just now that you have social workers following up the cases. Now, the HS, does it have something similar to the HA to have some sort of rental allowance or subsidy for those in need? So, two questions. Mr. Wong. Now, first of all, the rate of increase. The last time we increased the rent was 2 years, 8%. So about 4% every year. It's just about the inflation rate. And when we make these adjustments, we follow the criteria. It has to be affordable and to allow us to be sustainable. And then, now if we were to fulfill these criteria, we'll have to increase rent by 2 digits. But last time we only increased 8%, and 4 years ago it was 6%. So every time we try to take into account the tenants' affordability. Now, it is not a full transfer of the burden to the tenants. Now, on subsidy, or we have to be financially independent, so anything we do, we have to take that into account. We are not following the HA's policies on rich tenants and so on. No, we do not have such schemes because we are looking at a very expensive running costs or management fees if we were to do so. And we have social workers there, and well, throughout society there are different ways and means for the elderlies in difficulties to seek help. Now, can you provide some sort of a rental subsidy? Yes, Mr. Wong. Now, we have a few criteria. First of all, our affordability, as I've said a few times, and secondly, and not to duplicate social resources which are available to help those in need. And our social workers will try their best to help them find such resources. Mr. Christopher Chung. Now, I've just been to your website and to look at your power, and you really have a lot of power. You can buy land, you can buy a ship, you can buy stocks and shares, or even high-risk debentures. Now, what is your investment strategy? And if you were to suffer financial losses, who will bear the burden? Secondly, your corporate governance, does it have to be reviewed? In the case of some of the mosaic tiles falling off, and Now, of course, I'm just using this as an example. The building was relatively new. Now, when you monitor the construction of buildings, well, are you leaving some sort of loopholes and people can get away with it? Now, third point about rent hike. Now, we've got this letter here in front of us. Now, what is your strategy? Do you use an average figure for all the tenants, or do you look at each of the housing estates individually? For Kun Long Lau, they are mainly elderly tenants. They have low affordability. If you use an average figure approach, that's not fair. Some have been there for decades. These people cannot afford the average percentage of rent increase. Maybe you should take into account the fact that they are not wage earners anymore. Now, first of all, on our investment strategy, we have about 30 billion worth. About 10 billion is fixed assets. The others, we have to use them for development purposes. We have 5 or 6 estate projects, and they are housing HOS units in the main. And we want to catch up with inflation, especially construction costs, which increases 8 to 9% every year. So for investment, we have long, mid, and short-term investments, including bank deposits and investment managers to help us. But we are certainly not buying a ship or any luxury items for investment, none at all. So please do not get us wrong. Now, on corporate governance, now we have a monitoring committee, and our corporate governance has all along been twofold. So we have at least 2 tiers of monitoring. Now, in all our development projects, we have to follow the existing legislation. Each of our development plans has to follow the building ordinance and the building regulations, and we need to get occupation permits, just like the private development enterprises. We have a special team of project managers. They are professionals such as engineers and surveyors. And almost unavoidably, Mrs. Chung, you mentioned a case of the mosaic tiles. We are doing our best. Now, we do not really go into the cause of the problem because it's in the past already, and we just try to focus on the present situation to help those tenants. Now, for those in difficulties, I have already said it, there are resources in society to help those in need, and we have social workers who are based in those estates to help them out. Okay, can you queue again, or to give us answer in writing? Mr. Ip Kwok Him, please. Yes, on the rent issue, your rent will cover the renovation and so on, as you just said. Now, DHS has quite a few old estates, and many of the tenants are in fact not working. Now, at the end of the day, you said you will consider affordability. Now, when considering rent hike, you should consider affordability. Now, but how much weight does affordability figure in your calculations? Now, a lot of the Kaifongs here, they are very worried because if you increase rent by 2 digits, and that's a very large amount, but at the moment it's already 8%. Now, you also mentioned professionals in HS. Now, for maintenance or renovation of the buildings, can they not help? And this is something that they should be able to do to avoid things like bid rigging. Now, with so many professionals in your team, you should be able to do some help. And also, in the past projects, you have accumulated experience and figures and numbers, and that can be turned into a database so that whenever we are doing maintenance work, we can do better. For example, in 2009, you have the Operation Building Bright. So we can actually learn from these past experience. And this way, people cannot take advantage of these situations and avoid unnecessarily high bids. The first question on affordability, Mr. Ip. Now, we will consider inflation, the income. Now, these have a strong impact on tenants' affordability. Now, we do not have the right at the moment to ask them to declare their income to us. Now, when we do house visits, we ask about them, but they are not accurate. So basically, we look at inflation and the income index. Now, your point about professionals that we do have. 3 years ago, the Development Bureau has done an urban renewal exercise, and you have the role of the URA made public, and under the 4R approach, then we have an overall scheme called the Integrated Building Maintenance Assistance Scheme, and we provide some technical guidelines. And we've actually put in $4 billion, and this is basically welcome. And after that, we have the Operation Building Bright, and we help with these exercises. And after the review of these work, the government decided that all such work would be passed on to the URA. This will be done in phases, and by the end of this year, the last phase will be transferred to the URA. And the future URA would follow such advice or subsidy that in the past, those will be continued. Now, in the past, yes, we've got a lot of figures, that is correct, and in fact the ICAC has talked to us and asked to see if the figures can be released for the private tenement owners. But these are technical information, and you cannot just transfer the figures wholesale. Now, under the ICACs and the Surveyors Society, they're going to produce exactly such databases, and they have technical backup from the surveyors, and the figures will be more meaningful. Thank you.
Mr. Kwok Wai Keung and then Fernando Jiang. Mr. Wong said that a number of factors have been taken into account, but since last year we've been asking for it, but still we are not able to find out about the formula that you rely on to come up with the rental level. Do you have a formula, or you have one but you rather hide it from us? You've always said that you would consider this and that, but I really want to know about the actual formula. And then Mr. Wong has also said that you have got $30 billion worth of assets, though 10 billion is irremovable, but at least you have got 20 billion, which is movable. Now you're saying that you're poor. You say that you need to set aside money for redevelopment. For the $900 million available to you, you can at most redevelop 4 of them. So are you going to make use of the assets for the purpose of redevelopment? We need to go back to your annual report. You have talked about your achievements. And then for rental income, you are making a profit year by year. 5 years ago, $200 million. And then just last year, $300 million more. And then sale of properties, $400 million. And from another source of income, $800 million. We have made so much money. I think you can use it to subsidize the rental income, right? Just now you talked about the Group A estates, and you have said that they are quite similar to the public rental housing estates of the housing authority in that you have got the same target households. So don't you think that they should be given some assistance from you? For the Kwun Lung House tenants, they have come to petition us. They have put up a sad face. They are poor and elderly. They can only live on their meager savings. It appears that you're setting eyes on their savings, their assets. You try to increase the rent once every 2 years. So it seems that the savings are not going to last long. So you are putting them in fear and anxiety. I think you should do something to the contrary, that is try to help them. Now you're simply telling them that they cannot escape from a rental increase and they can't look forward to having CSSA. For the redevelopment of the housing estates. And if that is to be reflected in if the rental income is to reflect the redevelopment needs, then no one can afford the rental. I don't think he can answer this question. I don't think you rely on rental income. From time to time, the government would entrust certain projects with you. You have made a lot of profit out of Project H21. So why would you want to increase the burden on the tenants? You can try harder to make money elsewhere. Have you ever considered the claim on your budget if you are to introduce a rental assistance scheme? Mr. Wong. Mr. Kwok would like to find out about the formula for increasing rental levels. I talked about a number of factors. Currently, the rental income levels are quite similar to those of the housing authority. In some cases, we are lower. Irrespective of the formula that we have relied on, the amount arrived at would not exceed those of the housing authority. In the past, we did give you an idea about our financial statement upon your request. As to the statement that we have incurred a surplus. Well, if you read our report, well, we have a surplus when we sell properties. And when we don't have anything to sell, then we don't have that source of income. And for rental, for this year, we'll be incurring a deficit, and we are subsidizing the rental income with income from the commercial properties, and we are happy to do that. As to the current assets, you are asking me as to why we say that we have to be very careful. Recently, we are embarking on the redevelopment of Minghua Mansion. It has to be done bit by bit. It will take 20 years, so it will cost us at least $6 billion. And we're talking about one single housing estate, and assets that we can use will value no more than $20 billion. So that's why I'm saying that we've got money for the redevelopment of 4 housing estates only. We are not sort of increasing the rental so as to get money for the purpose of redevelopment. No, we are increasing the rental so as to catch up with the recurrent expenditure. You know about the inflation rate. For maintenance and repair, it is getting more costly. Last year, we were increasing the rental at 4%. We could barely cope, and if there are more improvement items, we can't really offset that with our rental income. Please set aside sufficient time for him to answer the questions, because we do have a third item. Financial gem. Today, we have the tenants from Kunong House. They have a Kunong House rental concern group. Many of them are elderly. They are not getting CSSA. They have got a very small amount of income. They count on family support. They have some savings. They live on their old age living allowance, etc. But then you're increasing the rental all the time, so they are finding it harder to afford. Many members have asked for your formula. Is it possible for you to make it public so that we know it, for us to monitor the housing society? It will be difficult to understand what is in your basket of factors, and we don't know what you are after. So as to your positioning, I think you should be providing low-cost housing for lease and for sale. But it seems that you have become a property developer. For the case in Shaoqiwan, I was there when you demolished the building. I was there when you sent a bailiff to evict the people. You compensated them $3,000 per square foot. Now you are selling at a price of $20,000, and you are making a lot of money. Understand that you have got $5.2 billion by way of surplus. For your net assets, I think you have got $23 billion according to the 2013 annual report. Now you're saying that you have to incur a lot of expenditure, but you're still selling the units. In the past few years, on average, you were getting over $1 billion by way of profit. So you need to reconsider your position. You are a statutory body. You have got public resources. You have got free land or cheap land, and you have been joining hands with the URA in your projects. And then for the rental units, many of your tenants are elderly. They are from low-income families, and you haven't offered any rental assistance. So what is your positioning? Do you want to continue to make money? Of course, for the senior officials, you make $5 million a year. I think the nature of the organization has changed. I think you need to think carefully. Don't you think that you should disclose the information, introduce rental assistance, and have tenants sitting on your monitoring committees, like so that they know what the supervisory board is doing. For the rental increase, to be frank, we don't have something as simple as A plus B plus C. Otherwise, it would have been easy. Say, for example, we adhere to a particular index. But in fact, we would like to take more into account to consider the affordability of the tenants. For the last round, had we tried to make the to even out, we would have required more than 10% increase. For the urban renewal or urban redevelopment project, 10 years ago, we took on 6 such projects. At that time, we thought we'll be incurring a deficit. We did not anticipate a profit. We merely thought that we could do something for the public. But nowadays, in individual projects, we made a profit. But for the upcoming ones, I don't think we can make a profit because it's taken too long a time to resume the properties. And also the cost was huge. So for the remaining 2 projects, I suspect that there will be a deficit. We have got a surplus in other projects. That's because 10 years ago, we resumed the properties and then the prices of the property market were very different. Now, if we are to sell the properties at a very low level, and when there isn't a resale restriction, it will only fuel the speculation. We are not setting the prices at levels similar to those of luxurious flats. We are having the no-frills flats, and we are approaching the market levels. In fact, at such a level, there are many prospective buyers who are interested in such properties, and therefore we were able to sell all of the flats for the purpose of urban renewal. There are 2 outstanding projects, but I don't think that we are going to make a profit out of the 2. Now, as to the point that the government will be entrusting a lot of projects with us, I don't think we are certainly making a profit. Now, we need to pay the premium. We need to pay 50% of the market value, and there's the construction cost. And then the sale price can only be 60 or 70% of the market value. It means that it will be very difficult for us, and there isn't a likelihood of making a profit. But still, we believe that it's right for us to provide more subsidized housing. Recently, there are 2 sites that have been offered to us and will be interested. There are 300 units. Well, Mr. Wong, you have a lot of information. Please give us the information in writing. We've still got 5 members queuing up, including myself, 6 of us. I think we need to extend the meeting time by 15 minutes. But in fact, we have got a 3rd item. I'm afraid we can't finish the agenda item. It's better for us to defer it till next time. I know you're all interested in this particular item, so I'd rather give you ample time. But then it means that there will be 4 items on the June agenda. Perhaps we'll have to schedule a longer meeting. Please try to schedule your business, and please also make sure that you set aside sufficient time for the Housing Society to answer your questions. Mr. Wong, since you have got so much information, please provide something in writing, because we can't jot down everything that you are saying. Mr. Wong has said that as a result of the new policies of the government, the Housing Society has taken up certain tasks like the building maintenance. The Housing Society, Housing Authority, and the URA. I think the government should redefine the roles and positioning of the 3 organizations. For the Housing Society, I think first of all, you targeted households like those living in Group A estates and HOS occupiers, but we have also got another group, Group B estate tenants. And there was also the sandwich class housing loan scheme. I think it's a matter of filling in the gaps. There are certain gaps in subsidized housing, so perhaps the housing society can do something about it so that you can provide subsidized housing for rent or for sale. And then about the idea of having rental assistance. For Group A estates, they're very similar to RPH estates under the Housing Authority. Will the THB try to sort out the matter? We have got two organizations providing rental housing. I think the THB should also provide some assistance to the housing society.
Now, well, I mean, you may actually find your hands tied, so I would like you to tell us under what situation can the HS provide some sort of housing or rent subsidy? Now, you mentioned the social workers helping those tenants in need. Now, the 6 social workers, what can they do? Is it that you're going to help them with getting CSSA or subsidy for the elderly, or are there other resources that we are not aware of? Now, I'll just answer the first 2 questions first. On the sandwich class housing or type B units, yes, we are most willing to do this provided land is available, and we are always seeking sectors of society that we can help. So this is something we are most willing to do. Now, on the 6 social workers, now I'll ask my colleague to help. Now, just one follow-up. Now, from 2002, when the sandwich housing stopped, there's nothing similar appearing. Now, what is the reason? It's not that we don't have anything new. We have units available for sale which would appear in Sha Tin, but that is an HOS flats requirements. Yeah, that's correct. Now, for sandwich housing, we do not yet have land for that. Now, we have to work in conjunction with overall housing policy of Hong Kong, and we will follow the advice of the Hong Kong government. Now, but as I said, we are still very much interested in doing type B construction. Now, can you please tell us something about the 6 social workers? Now, we provide comprehensive help, and not just because they are facing financial difficulty. Now, they have other needs, or maybe they are living by themselves, maybe they have emotional problems. Our social workers can help them. So, the social worker scheme has been running for 4 years, starting with 2, now we have 6. And we were able to help a good number of problem cases. And we have different types of follow-up. Mr. Leung Yu Chung, Mr. Wong said you do not have a formula for rent increase. I don't think this is a big problem. Now, the HA has a formula, but the formula only allows them to increase and not decrease rent. Now, the question really is, now, you are saying that you only catch up with inflation. Now, in the last 2 years, people's salary is not catching up with inflation. In the last 2 years, a salary increase is only 2 point something %. So not really catching up with inflation, but you are saying that inflation is the only thing you are after. But you have to understand that people's salary is not even catching up with inflation. So when they have to pay rent, the increased rents, they are actually shelling out more than they can afford to do so. Now, if you've taken that into consideration, your increase should not be 4%, maybe only 3%. Now, second question, you've used 6 social workers as a shield and hide behind them. But the social workers are not going to help them with their financial needs, even though you say there are resources in society they can apply for. You have to remember, well, are they actually getting any benefit there? The social workers, as Mr. Ip was saying, were helping them with their emotional needs or because they are living by themselves, not really helping them with their financial needs. But now they're coming to us with their financial requests. Now people are getting older, and when they get older, they are relying on their past savings alone. So any rental subsidy will be very beneficial to them. Now, but at the moment, there is only 2% of people requiring rental subsidy. Not a lot of people. So this is something you can afford. Now, have you estimated how many such cases will there be? In fact, there won't be that many. It's just that you don't want to do it. And I don't know why. Mr. Wong, rental help or subsidy? Now, as we've been saying, I understand your point about salary increase not catching up with inflation. And precisely because of that, we are not passing all the burden to the tenants. So the last time, the increase was lower than our original expectation. Now, this is something I have to emphasize. We do not want to hide behind the social workers. We are really trying to help the tenants. I've actually been speaking to some residents from Kwun Lung House. I understand your worries and concern, and I feel that personally myself. And I have been in touch with these elderlies, and our colleagues will continue to do so. Now, I hope members will understand that because we have to be financially autonomous, we of course consider the tenants' affordability, but it is not as simple as shelling out financial help. We have to take into account, management implications, or administration costs involved, or whether we need to have a demerit point system or well-off tenants scheme. So we are going to review our overall policy. Now, you've been telling us that you are not increasing rents to the maximum extent, but then you are saying that their salaries are not catching up with inflation, so you are not solving the problem. Chair, now, both society and government have resources. No, that is not the case. Well, what resources are there? Can you give us concrete examples? Don't just give us abstract answers. Now, I think we will have to pass on to the next one because I will be asking a similar question. Mr. Lee Chak Yan. Now, have you considered that the HS has more than 1 billion surplus every year, sometimes 1.9, sometimes 1.4 billion surplus every year? Now, that being the case, why do you need to increase rent? And you claim that you are catching up with inflation. Now, but you have to consider that catch up with inflation is already a very minimum one is doing, and everyone is doing that. And the result is that all of us are suffering as a result. Not to mention that many workers are not having increases matching inflation. Also, okay, you say that you don't have a formula, but then you have savings, and then you have to consider all your project works and so on. But have you taken into account the surplus you are having? You should take this into account, because you are not supposed to be a profit-making body. You should be making contribution to society. Since you are so well off, why increase rent? Now you are scaring people away that you establish well-off tenants. Well, we are not asking you to do that. We are asking you for rent subsidies. You should be taking proactive action to help. You said that social workers will be helping to apply for other social resources. In fact, they don't really need your help. They know that already. But we need to have rental subsidy for some tenants. If their income, for example, is lower than a certain threshold, they can pay half the rent. Why not increase this into your system, that those in need can pay less? Turn this into something systematic, and people would get help automatically without resorting to the social workers. Now, Mr. Lee, you say that we have surplus, but that is not true every year. It's just that in the last 2 years we have projects for sale, and we have some surplus. Now, I have said it that if you look at the rental units alone, we are suffering deficits because we have to put in a lot of money for renovation. Now, for a subsidy scheme, I have said a few times, there are other resources from government or from society to help those in need. We do not want to duplicate such resources. Now, the HS, even with surplus, why do we have to increase rent? Now, if we have surplus, we do not use the surplus for ourselves. We channel those surplus into society, and we want to keep the HS estates self-financing. And if we save any surpluses, that will be used for future redevelopment or renovation. But in the past, not only the last 1 or 2 years, but the last 5 years, from 1.9 billion to 1.4 last year. So every year, you have more than 1 billion. So 5 years running, you have a massive surplus. Okay, you say that the money would be plowed back. Then why not use it for the needy tenants? You can reduce your rent hike. 8% now, but then what about next time? So can you not lower the rate of increase? Of course, the best thing is to freeze the rent increase. Now, I would like to ask whether you have made any comparisons from different angles. You have a list of directors. Now, how much salary increase are you enjoying from, let's say, the 1990s to the present moment? What sort of basis were you using for your salary increase? Is it based on inflation? And then what about for horizontally for you? Is it because you have more income, then you will have more increase? And so these are the information I would like to have. Can I ask the chair to make this request? Now, secondly, now the HA has a formula, but cancelled later on. They have 10% of the median income, and if it exceeds that, then they cannot have any increase, and then they can only freeze, and they cannot reduce it, and then it was cancelled later on. You have something comparable, is that right? Now, what you just said now is that you are going to save for the future. Now, this is wrong. If one of you is suffering from various types of cancer, are you going to tell your children that I'm going to save money so that you will be able to cure cancer later on? Now, obviously not. Now, you can actually get land or subsidy from the government, and you can make your income later on from different channels. But right now, well, let's go back to the Kun Lung house case. Now, you have a type B residence or sandwich housing. Okay, initially they took up residence because they have some money, but now that they have retired and the children cannot fend for them, and then you increase their rent, and then they really have nobody to turn to.
You have been providing housing to the tenants, which isn't as cheap as that of the HA. There isn't any retirement protection, and then the children have abandoned them. Now you say sorry, but you have spent all your money. It is only, I think, when you have spent all your money, when you freeze your salary, then the government will give money to you. I think you have ventured beyond your core business for too much. You're supposed to provide housing different from Group A estates. That is for those who are a bit more, a bit better off. So, Madam Chair, I would rather not ask them any questions, but just try to have the vertical as well as the horizontal comparison. And after you have made a profit, how much your salary, by how much has your salary been increased? And how do you compare with the URA? I think you just sit there, expand your business, and you get a lot of money in return. Do you agree? Do you admit, Mr. Wong? For our salary increase, we do have a vigorous mechanism. Show it to us. We won't just because of the profit or surplus, and then our salary will be adjusted accordingly. Every year, we have got 2 consultants, Hayes and Watson Wires, to carry out a market survey for us. As a responsible corporation, we must rely on the market wage to retain our staff. So every year we carried out a study. We have made reference to URA, MTRCL, property management companies, as well as professional companies. Every year they prepare a very detailed report, and then we have got a number of committees, and they cautiously vet the report before we decide on the salary increase. What about the information demanded by Mr. Leung Kwok Hong? Yes, horizontal as well as vertical comparisons. I'd like to use my 4 minutes. Just now, Mr. Yip has said that you have had 4 years experience of social workers, and there are 6 of them now. Now, for my constituency, I've got rental housing as well as HOS tenants, but never have I been told about such a social work arrangement. At most, we've been told that they will be assisted in getting transfers. So, do you only get social workers for larger housing estates? For smaller ones with 2 blocks only, you don't have a social worker? Mr. Wong, you've said that you don't have a salary, you don't have a formula for rent increase. But you need to tell us in clearer terms on what basis you adjust your rent, wage index, profitability, etc. If you can't give us the information, please consider one point only, namely affordability of the tenants. Currently, the tenants find it hard to cope, so perhaps you should refrain from increasing the rent. So please be clearer about the criteria. And then for rental assistance, Mr. Wong, you've said many times that you don't want to duplicate the social resources. Please tell us exactly what you are referring to. If a tenant has financial difficulty, where can a tenant turn to? I've got such constituents, and I think they will be interested to know where they can turn to. And then the 4th question is for the government, but maybe Ms. Kwok may not be able to answer this question. I find it regrettable not to have someone from the accountability system. We've got 3 papers, one prepared by the government. In the 2nd paragraph, it says that the ordinance does not empower the government to monitor the operation of the Hong Kong HS. So it seems that you're giving a free hand to the housing society. Mr. Wong talked about the supervisory board and executive committee, that the government has no say over the appointment of members. Well, in this case, what can the government do when it comes to the positioning of the HS as the housing laboratory? If you can't monitor them, how come that you can give them 2 sites, one in Sha Tin, the other in Sha Tau Kwok, and then another one in Chang Kwan O and Tuen Mun? You don't monitor them. Why would you want to give them 2 sites? How can you be sure that they will be offering subsidized rental housing as intended? Would it be irresponsible? First 3 questions are for Mr. Wong. Last question for Ms. Kwok. As to the assistance to be provided by the social workers and also the resources in the community, I think I can provide something in writing. Yes, please tell us what resources are available, and therefore you don't think you need to provide your own rental assistance. I will be interested to find out. Second, in my paper, paragraph 5.1, that tells you about the rent adjustment mechanism. If you want to know the details, again, in writing, I can provide the information to you. Ms. Kwok then. Madam Chair, as we have said in the paper, yes, indeed, it is right to say that it is independent, financially autonomous and self-financing. As Mr. Wong has said, the HS was established under the law and incorporated as a body corporate. The ordinance does not empower the government to monitor the operation of the HS, so it is not right for us to intervene. You don't have the power to monitor it. How come that you have given it land? Well, all along, the housing society has a very close relationship with us as a partner in our housing policies. We have issued the long-term housing strategy, and we have given recognition to the close partnership between the government and the Hong Kong HS. Now, housing supply is tight, and we've been exploring the different options available so as to increase the housing stock. Now, you know that the HS has been providing rental units to the low-income households. The HS has also played a very active role in providing subsidized housing for sale. So in the long-term housing strategy, it has been given further recognition. It has been reaffirmed. I need to consider the time constraint. You don't need to continue. Please say in writing why you don't have power to monitor it? How can you be sure that the 4 sites given to the HS will certainly be developed into the type of housing intended by the government? And this is the final question. You can't give an answer off the top of your head. How can you get more power so as to monitor the HS? Otherwise, it will be difficult to say or talk about the role and the policies. Now you are saying that it is independent, and yet you have given it some task. So how can you be sure of that? Second round, Mr. Kwok Wai Keung, 3 minutes. Well, it appears that the housing society is regarding it as a business. So for the elders who have to cut their expenditures so as to pay rent, it seems that you have turned a deaf ear to their hardship. Now, question for the THB. Many tenants have been waiting for PRH, and for a period of time it was said that the housing society had got units available, and so waiting list applicants have been advised to switch over to the housing society, paying a slightly higher rent. So the two of them are having an overlapping of roles. Now, if the housing society is to insist on not providing rental assistance, now the housing authority is also serving more or less the same types of households. So would the HA be willing to consider providing rental assistance to tenants who are living in Hong Kong housing society units? Well, let me say this again. The HS is independent. It has got its own policies as to how to manage their own housing estates. We have to respect the independence of the housing society. Mrs. Kwok, now, Mr. Kwok's point is that, yes, we respect the independence of the HS. If the HS is not to provide assistance, can the government do so? Well, for the time being, we don't think that it is right for us to intervene in relation to their policies and management. You think it is not appropriate, or is it something forever? We say that not for the time being, but when would it be appropriate? Well, we have always been maintaining a very good relationship with the HS when it comes to development of public housing. We are partners. We'll continue to maintain our relationship in implementing our policies. As to how the HS is to manage its own estates, we leave it in the hands of the HS. It has got its own powers, it has got its own functions and rationale. We believe that the HS, as a not-for-profit organization, will, in drawing up its policies, etc., as Mr. Wong has said, consider affordability and the reaction of the community when it comes to matters like setting of rent levels. I think the housing society must assess how much will it cost if there is to be rental assistance. Mrs. Kwok, please also provide something in writing. Will the government review the ordinances to make sure that the housing society would really be able to deliver? Otherwise, you shouldn't have given 4 sites to them. How can you be sure that housing will be provided? And Mr. Wong, please also give the information we have requested. In particular, Mr. Leung's request, that is all the comparative data. That's it for today. Thank you for the attendance. We'll have our meeting next time in June.